Correct. But what is happening is basically the temperature of flame that is coming in contact with the metal, the ball or the vessel is also low.
Lower.
So here temperature of flue gas entering superheater at 10 tons load will be lower. And I still have to make 400 degrees on temperature.
The heat,
Less delta T,
the metal temperature.
not the metal temperature, I am saying flue gas to steam temperature. Steam coming here is at saturation temperature. And coming to superheater is from the drum, so it is saturation temperature. Fixed value, because it is fixed by the pressure. Okay. But I am having less flue gas temperature.
It's a fixed
Superheater seems to be bigger. So you answered it right. Only thing is you are not able to exactly say why. And I was asking a designer question. What will be the design point? The design point is
Minimum.
that means I have to design the superheater to give you 400 degrees temperature even when the boiler operates at 10 ton load. Why? Because the delta T is reduced. So I need to add more surface. The same superheater, when the temperature is high, will start absorbing more heat. So there will be more heat transfer. So I need to.
We don't need to justify for the maximum value.
That's what I'm
Still.
That's what I'm coming to ask. The same superheater, when operating at a higher flue gas temperature, will probably give you higher than 400 degrees temperature because surface is designed for much lower delta T. Now delta T is higher. Okay? So what do? We have the superheater. So if some people ask, why do we require desuperheater? You superheat first, then again you desuperheat. What is? You can't you design a superheater without a desuperheater? Yes, I can. But you give me a small range. No desuperheater. You just tell me, okay, boiler only at 40 ton, I want temperature proper. Even 10% lower also, still you lose temperature, no problem for me. Then okay, no desuperheater required. It's not that the technology is so weak that we cannot predict the surface area. The problem is you have a wider range, but it's not like a damper which you can operate online. Here the surfaces are fixed already. If you build 2000 square meter superheater surface, it is going to be 2000 square meter all the way. There is no way you can blank off superheater partially or take out partially superheater the tubes. You cannot do that. That's why we declared by desuperheater. Desuperheater is not because boiler engineers are fools. Okay. So now coming back to the point FEGT. FEGT is furnace exit gas temperature. Gas temperature at furnace exit. Now it's okay for me to say I designed a superheater for 10 ton load. But that's not the only thing I require. I also want to know, I know the steam temperature. It is coming from the drum. Drum is operating at 40 bar, saturation temperature is 256 degrees, so steam temperature is 256. But what is the gas temperature outside? I have to know that, isn't it? What is the flue gas temperature? 800, 700, 1000. That is efficient. So the temperature of gas, if you remember Aban,
Yes.
in our first boiler upgrade,
Yes.
F2791, and I think subsequently for the 3 boilers, we installed a thermocouple on the rear wall.
Yes.
That was to check the FEGT. We wanted to be sure that the superheater does not get exposed to overheat after the burner replacement.
We put at the superheater, right?
Yeah,
Skin
I mean
thermocouple.
here. It was not skin. It was in the air actually, in the flue gas part. Not skin was also there. Yeah. That was GPP. Yeah. Okay. But the first one was not skin.
At the furnace.
It was three thermocouples. Because the first upgrade.
Still has. That means it's still there now.
Still there. Yeah. Because Kumar and Mohammad Ismail were not convinced that the superheater replacement was necessary. And I had to prove to them that they were getting very high temperature. So we installed 3 thermocouples there to make sure that the new superheater will not fail. So that was one of the, sometimes you have to prove by actual site data. But anyway, coming to the design again, basically furnace exit gas temperature is become another design input for the superheater design. what is the gas temperature you are going to get and what is the steam temperature inside, so much of delta T, so much of surface, that will be enough for so much of heat transfer. Okay? Now FEGT, you understood what is FEGT, furnace exit gas temperature. Okay, because this is the passage for the steam to, for the gases to go in. What is the temperature of flue gases here is FEGT. Now going back to this, if you increase the depth of the furnace, there will be that many more tubes forming the furnace. More tubes means more heat absorption in the furnace. For the same amount of fuel firing, the FEGT will drop. That means if you build a very long boiler, then this whole wall is basically consisting of tubes, right? Tube all the way. Like our boiler is 84 tubes. 84 tubes, side by side 84. Wall tube. If you make the furnace deeper, for any reason, maybe burner or volume or what, then the effect will be, you will end up getting a lower flue gas temperature. And then you will not be able to make 400 degrees. If 300, still okay perhaps. So, what I am trying to say is like a jigsaw puzzle, You take out one piece also and try it, then everything else seems to change shape. Because we started with a very basic thing, the flame shape, flame diameter and flame depth. But how it got connected with so many things? It connected to superheater performance.
So the superheater performance is governed by what? The area?
Steam temperature inside, which is the saturation, that is drum pressure basically, and flue gas temperature outside, which is the FEGT. Now, I want to ask you a simple question. There is a boiler, there are two boilers. One boiler is a 40 bar operating pressure, the other is a 80 bar operating pressure. Which boiler will require higher FEGT to get the same steam temperature?
Again,
There are two boilers.
okay.
One boiler is operating 40 bar pressure,
Okay.
other is operating at 80 bar pressure.
Okay.
Both, except the pressure, everything is same. This one also 400 degrees centigrade steam. This one also 400 degrees steam. Everything is same. Just the pressure is higher. One boiler is higher pressure, one boiler is lower pressure. If the second boiler is at a higher pressure and the first boiler is lower pressure, which of the two boilers will require higher FEGT? Furnace exit gas temperature should be higher in which case? And why? Temperature of steam is required same, but pressure is different. One boiler is at 80 bar, other boiler is 40 bar. My question is which boiler will...
So which one you need to fire up more?
No, firing is the same because you are producing same steam. Same temperature, same capacity. Both boilers, let's say 50 ton per hour, only pressure is different.
80 bar.
One boiler at 80 bar, other boiler at 40 bar.
80 bar.
80 bar.
80 bar.
80 bar require higher FEGT.
Higher FEGT. Why?
Because you need more generating tubes and it absorbs more heat.
More generating tube will not be required because it's the same amount of steam that you are producing.
Because of the
Both 40 ton per hour boiler, both 400 degrees centigrade steam temperature, only pressure is different.
units was small.
No different FEGT.
I said number of generating tubes will not be different because number of steam, the steam produced is the same. That reason is not the correct reason. And my question is simple. FEGT required will be higher in which case? Why?
The higher temperature you get, the higher the pressure is.
Because higher pressure,
Higher pressure, higher temperature. you
Which
need.
higher? Which temperature higher?
Low G.
Saturated temperature
You are
higher.
almost coming to it.
Yep.
You are almost coming to it. Complete it.
saturated temperature.
Saturation temperature is higher
Saturation temperature is higher.
in 80 bar.
Yes.
In 80 bar.
Definitely
That
higher.
means the steam, the wet steam or the not just the wet steam, the steam coming from the drum into this superheater
It's
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 higher.
at higher
Higher
temperature.
It's higher temperature. Yes.
So there is less delta T.
Yeah.
So you need to have higher FEGT in order to transfer the heat.
To get more delta T.
Okay. Okay. Yeah.
Clear?
Yeah.
Very clear.
If it is clear, you don't have to write anything. That's what I'm saying. If you just attend to just think
Can you
logically.
explain that? Very
You need
well.
to draw from the diagram how the
Okay. Okay, basic circuit, you have steam drum, you have the generating bank, water drum, and the steam comes out of the drum after steam water separators, then it goes to superheater and it goes on. Now, basically, and this is the furnace. So basically, how is the okay, I should have drawn this like actual furnace. Drawing the plan view. The furnace is this. Then it goes over the superheater. Superheater is here. And then you have the generating bank here. And the drum is on top. So drum is sitting on top. Steam drum. So if you see the typical layout, it will be this. From here, it goes to the superheater. And then it comes over the generator and goes on. Okay. So, this steam is going to superheater. If this is at 40 bar pressure, steam is going to be at 256 degrees saturation temperature. But if the same is at 80 bar, I don't know what is the saturation temperature, but I am just taking it, it's probably 310.
294.
294. Okay.
Every
So
day.
294 degrees. 294. He knew that's going to be the requirement. Already it's sure.
Yeah. Already Google.
Proactive.
Okay. So you need to get the 294 bar.
So, no, not bar. This is operating at 80 bar. So the steam coming from the drum will be at 294 temperature
At 80
So-
degree, at 80 bar.
because of higher pressure. So when the steam comes here and outside you have the flow gas. The steam inside is already hot and you need to heat it up to 400 degrees. So delta T is lower. When the delta T is lower, you need to have higher flow gas temperature. Otherwise, you cannot push the heat into the steam. So, in order to have a delta T, you need to have higher FEGT. Flow gas temperature coming over superheater is required to be higher. So, simple logic is higher pressure boilers
Makes more
will require more FEGT. That means you have to make sure that not too much of heat is absorbed in the furnace. It must leave enough temperature of the flow gas for the superheater to function.
So how do you do that?
So you increase the number of superheater.
No, that is one way. That can be one way. You can make the superheater bigger. But the example I was trying to say was just to highlight the importance of FEGT. And sometimes it may so happen that you land up having the FEGT just slightly higher than the steam temperature. Then you build even a very big superheater, nothing will happen. Because the heat transfer cannot happen. It is a very small delta.
So that means if we want to control in terms of FGT, let's say that we want higher FGT, maybe we should reduce the number of tube heat absorbed at the furnace.
That's the next thing.
Oh.
EBRs.
Oh.
What question is now coming to your mind is answered there. Effective projected gradient surface. See, okay, you know that there are three types of heat transfer.
What?
Three types Heat transfer happens in three types.
Convection.
Radiant heat transfer,
Discharge.
conductive heat transfer and convective heat transfer. And you know what it is. In the furnace, most of the heat is by radiant heat transfer. Because all the furnace tubes are basically seeing the flame. And just how heat from the sun comes to us without any medium in between. There is no air. After the atmosphere there is no air. It's all empty. But still so much of heat can come in. Same way the radiant heat also travels without any medium. And in the furnace, as long as it is directly visible, as the light goes, as long as there is a direct passage available, the heat will be radiant. Radiant heat will be more than anything else. So in the furnace you have more heat transfer by radiant method or radiant heat transfer. If the EPRS, effective protected radiant surface, is increased, then you end up getting more heat transfer, radiant heat transfer in the furnace, and then you lose efficiency.
Projected radiant surface means the surface that the tubes are experiencing radiation.
Yes.
The heating surface
The
of
wall tube.
Basically, you
radiation.
just say like if you have a light source, for let's say I have a torch, and I'm throwing the beam here. If the beam is partly falling on this and partly going there, then this is radiant surface. That is radiant surface, but it is obstructing some part of the sling here. That is not a radiant surface. Then that will become convective surface. Where the light can directly reach is radiant. So in the furnace now, what is the radiant surface? Half of the tube which is inside,
The wall tube.
the wall tube, half which is inside, remaining half is outside. So that is not receiving any radiation. Plus the membrane film. That also is a heat absorber. So the heating surface, EPRS is actually calculated that way. Tube diameter so much, plus half of it is perimeter, so 2 pi r divided by 2. So pi times radius for each tube. How many tubes? 80 tubes. So equivalent to 80 tubes is so much perimeter times the length of each tube minus what was covered by refractory. Plus how many membrane strips? What is the width? 24 millimeter. 24 millimeter times this whole length times how many membrane strips? From basics. Just like elementary class 3 student. It's calculated that way. And that becomes the radiant surface. Effective, but it is called EPRS. Now, if let's say in some case the EPRS is too high because the furnace is becoming big for various reasons. Maybe your fuel is taking time to burn. It's not natural gas. It's some low calorie fuel, like what we will be doing for acid gas. If we convert our boilers, then this will become an issue. So then what happens is the fuel is taking time to burn. So you build the furnace, and fuel is taking time to burn means what? The flame diameter will be, or flame length will be longer. That is anyway coming from the burner vent. The burner manufacturer will tell you, this is the fuel, then this particular burner will require 5 meter depth. The same burner on a different fuel, which is lean fuel and takes time to burn, depth will be 6 meter, whatever. He has already told you that, and according to that you build the furnace. But that is taking away so much of heat that you end up getting low temperature. You cannot meet the superheater requirement. Then what to do? Increase superheater, then Aisha tells me price goes up.
Then put refrigerator and the water.
Correct. That's one of the solutions.
To preserve the.
Cover the tube with part of the furnace with refractory. So what I'm trying to say, it's again a jigsaw puzzle, you know. The boiler lands on the site here, everything readily fixed and everything. There is so much of iterations that have gone into it. And then boiler manufacturers have standardized their models based on all this trial and error. If you change one parameter there, something else goes out of the boundary and so on. So this is just to give an idea. And therefore in the industry, it's very rare to see, for example, boiler operating at 10 bar pressure. Is it uncommon?
hotel version.
Say 20 bar pressure, yeah, like hotel. Okay, hotel, good. 10 bar pressure, operating in a hotel industry. Not uncommon. But if I tell you 10 bar operating pressure, 500 degrees temperature, that will be very uncommon.
Yes.
Why is it now becoming uncommon? Because most of the boiler makers say don't waste my time. I don't want to design a boiler like that. Why? Because for 10 bar pressure, what is the amount of fuel that you fire? Will it be enough to give you so much leave so much of heat for the superheater? That means you are asking me to fire the fuel and give all the heat to the superheater only. Because you want 500 degrees temperature on the superheater. So do you want to produce steam, or do you want to just get a little steam but 500 degrees? I mean, not that some boilers cannot be designed. They can be designed. Only thing is it will be a very, very tailor-made design, where the furnace will be quite small. Effectively, geometrically it may be big. Geometrically it will be big. But like Zairi said, over the effect. So that most of the heat is left from the superheater to get the required efficiency. And how do you get efficiency? Is by controlling the EPR. Effective projected radiant surface. You reduce the radiant surface, you get more heat left for the superheater. Now, if it is the HRSG, situation is different. In HRSG, the first thing that you put is the superheater. Because the gases are coming at lower temperature already. What kind of efficiency we experience here after so much of work being done in the furnace? We end up getting about 800-900 degrees temperature in the superheater in our house. That kind of temperature is available only for the first row itself in HRSG. That's why you put the superheater first. Then you don't have the luxury of 1300 or 1600 temperature, which typically comes in a boiler furnace. Because in a HRSG, especially unfired mode, what is the temperature from GT? 400 something, 450, 460, and you want steam temperature of 400. Is there in our PCS boiler? So could you have put any EPRS before the superheater? Then what would have been the efficiency? Now these are terms that you should be talking. If you add any surface before superheater, which means EPRS, the efficiency will drop and there will be no heat left for the superheater to pick up. So the first row of tubes will be superheater in that case, because you are already getting this kind of temperature that you get at auxiliary boiler after passing through the furnace and coming here. That's the one at the source itself. So HRSG superheater is first. Then only you have convection fan. Then only you have the economizer. So that is all inside this.
So to limit the EPRS, one of the items I can do is to provide bricks or
Refractory or even refractory is only on the bottom. But on the side wall also you can. You put stud. Stud is on the wall.
If
And
the refractory is failing, then the first indication is on the FEGT or on the
superheater
steam.
temperature. Superheater temperature will go up.
The superheater will
Yes.
pressure,
Superheater temperature will go up.
temperature.
Because less heat is, because there is, sorry. Superheater temperature will drop. Sorry. If the refractory starts falling down,
Because it has been
more heat is absorbed with the furnace, so less heat left for the superheater. Superheater temperature will start going down. Okay. Okay. So with this we have already, with all these permutations and combinations and all the criteria, you fix the furnace configuration. With EPRS, burner flame clearance requirement and front wall dimensions, that is width and height already decided, you calculate the furnace depth and configure the furnace. That means all you can do is, if you want more heating surface or more EPRS, you can't change the height because it changes the static head. If you increase the static head, you might not be able to circulate water. If you increase the width, the difference between heating area EPRS of the C panel will be different, will be too high, so you cannot increase it too much. Another issue there is, if the C panel is too long, it's not only that it absorbs more heat, another problem is there is higher pressure drop also. It's a longer circuit. So they're both adding to form a disaster recipe. Because absorbing so much of heat, more surface, so it's absorbing more heat. And because of higher pressure, water doesn't want to go in that circuit because it has got adjacent circuits which are shorter. So these tubes anyway are starving. So that's also another reason. I mean, one thing you can solve it is by adding refractory, but it still doesn't solve the pressure drop problem. The pressure drop in the long tubes is much higher compared to the short tubes. So even if you cover the refractory, are you sure that at lower load that those tubes will really circulate? Maybe there is no circulation taking place in those tubes at lower load. So even though you cover the refractory, there are some tubes that may fail in the center especially, where the transition is happening between riser and downcomer. That area, on top, higher pressure drop. Is that coming clear to you? Higher pressure drop issue or not? It's only 4:30, not 5. I think you are not able to get it, right? I did not connect with you. From your face I could see, you could not understand what is this pressure drop we are talking about. Yeah, I could. So when I stand here, I am getting everybody's what is going on inside and I make sure that they understand. Don't
So
feel,
it's also based
don't
on
be offended,
experience.
huh? I'm just trying to make sure that you go back with clarity.
And then this is also based on your experience teaching me for many years.
Oh,
After more than
yes.
3 years international operator. Right.
See, we had these two configurations.
Most challenges to the
Steam drum, water drum. In one case, the C panel was this. In the other case, the C panel was very long. Correct? Why we chose a wrong panel was because we wanted to accommodate two burners side by side. So it became a very wide panel. But as I said at that time, this is a very long tube. It will absorb much more heat than its other sisters here, which is a very short surface, small surface. So how to overcome that problem? Somebody said put a refractory so that we can lay carpet on this and walk. Okay. Now you should say no. It's not that. But I did not tell you at that time that this tube and this tube are connected to the same source. And what is pushing the water up in this is this water drum. It's pushing up the water because it is colder water here, cold water here. This is riser, heat applied here and here. So this is riser, this is downcomer. So this downcomer is pushing the water up here. For the water, the option is either it can take this passage or it can take this passage. Why should water take this passage at all? Because it's a very high resistance, a long circuit. So preferentially water will try to flow in this passage and there will be less water flow here. On top of that, it has got a longer surface also, so more heat is being absorbed. Although we covered some part in the refractory, but still it remains more than this. So more heat we are giving to this tube, plus water is also less flowing in this. On top of that, there is steam formation in a larger part of the tube than this. So that is also adding to back pressure. So these tubes will likely fail. So that's another limit on why we cannot go on extending the welds. So when we freeze the configuration, we have to add all these factors for the limit on width, limit on depth, and limit on height. Height is limited by how much motive force you have to maintain the circulation.
If we reduce the diameter for the long routing, we reduce the diameter
Diameter of
the diameter of the tubes.
tube diameter.
Yeah,
Okay.
say half from the shorter part. Is that workable for the
systems.
For which one? These tubes?
Yeah.
That will go, in order to do what? Reduce the heating surface.
Not only reduce the dissipate, just to make sure the circulation of what is there.
It will circulate even less. Because there will be more pressure drop in that case. If at all you want to play with the diameter, those tubes should be bigger in diameter. So there is less resistance.
What about the internal, the spiral tubes?
Yeah, that's also one of the solutions. But that I am going to cover later because I have another program module which talks about how to help circulation. Then there is a issue of we are just coming to the end of natural circulation. How do we solve it? That's on rifle tubes. So now you have chosen the furnace configuration, meaning you have a proper dimensions now on the 3D view that you have developed when we started the discussion. Now you can put a line saying this will be 10 meter deep, this will be 3 meter tall, this will be 5 meter tall, wide or whatever. So that is, I think that basically comes to the furnace. Then we have the convection bank surface because this is again the generator basically. So far the furnace, so if you might have realized, this is only talking about the fire and heat transfer from the fire. It's radiant portion. Now we are coming to the convection portion. Because after the gases have taken the U-turn and come to the convection bank, it is no more radiant heat transfer. Then it is convective heat transfer. That's why we call it convection bank. Why is it called convection bank? Is because it's a convective heat transfer. So it's called convection bank. So convection banks are important for what? These are basically the responsible for meeting the specification of the customer, 40 ton per hour. That doesn't come from the furnace. Heat is another thing. Heat liberation is burner that we already covered. That we have stopped. We already covered that part. Now we are saying, are we having the capacity to absorb heat and convert so much water into steam at the rate of 40 tons per hour or 60 tons per hour? That is coming from here. So now this is the boiler portion.